Hello, and welcome to 5-Minute Math. Today we are looking at the 5th grade concept of recognizing volume. This is standard 5.6a in the great state of Texas, and we are using item number 12 of the Redesign Practice Online STAAR Test. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and take a moment to pause the video, work this problem out on your own, unpause it, and we will look at our answers together. So we have a rectangular prism here. Dimensions are shown in centimeters. The prism will be completely filled with unit cubes so that each has a volume of 1 cubic centimeter. So how many cubes are needed to fill this prism? All right, so what are we talking about when we're talking about volume? Well, let's open up our graph draw feature. Let's expand it out. Let's put some transparency on there so we can see what's going on behind there. So when we're talking about volume, it is a unit of measurement, but we're measuring a three-dimensional shape. So it's a 3D shape. This is a brand new concept for 5th grade. And so in the past, we would have area, right? And so if I were to try to find the area of this particular square, well, you see that I'm drawing this on the grid paper, and I've got 9 squares, right? So area is the measurement of how many squares fill up a two-dimensional or flat shape. Now, instead of squares, we're looking at cubes, right? So how many cubes, if I were to try to draw some cubes to go in here, right? It's kind of difficult to draw some cubes, but if I were to try to draw some cubes that were to go inside this shape, right? And they were to fill up correctly, this entire shape, this rectangular prism, how many cubes would there be? Well, there is a way to do this without drawing it. I can draw squares on a rectangle, but drawing cubes, as you can see, kind of difficult. So actually, we need to go to another one of our tools. So we'll keep that tool out the graph paper. Let's open up our reference chart right there. See that X, Y squared button? All right, so let's expand this out and take a look. We actually have something, and I'll scroll it towards at the top of the screen. Look at that volume. Is what we're looking at. So a cube is side by side simply because all sides are the same. When we're dealing with volume of a rectangular prism, it's either going to be length times width times height, that's the L times W times H, or B times H, which is base times height. And it might be good for us to kind of use that B times H, base times height, simply because that's what we're going to start seeing moving on about prisms. Is we kind of shift away from the length times width times height, and upper grades move towards base times height. So volume equals length times width times height, or volume equals base times height. So what does that mean? Well, let's see what we've got here. I'm going to go back to red. So when we're looking at length times width times height, here's my length and width right here. And then here's my height. So literally, one way to do this would be to multiply all three sides together. Right, that would be this right here. So let me bring this down here. Volume equals length times width times height. That's going to be 8 times 5 times 9. Okay? So let's do 8 times 5. That's going to be 40. 40 times 9. If I know my patterns of multiplying by multiples of 10, 100, or 1,000, I know that I can just multiply the two numbers that are not 0. 4 times 9. It's 36, and then I can add my 0 after that. If you want to, you can set it up like this, 40 times 9, but you're going to get the same answer, because that's what happens when you multiply by multiples of 10, 100, 1,000. Okay, so I'm looking at 360, and I see that's an option there, A. What is this other thing that I have, this base times height? Let me show you that in blue here. Well, base simply means if you were to find the base of the shape, the area of the base, and then multiply that by the height. That's one way I keep it remembered, is that B is capitalized rather than lowercase, and so that means it's the area of something, it's a measurement of something. Well, how do you find the area of a rectangle? So my base is a rectangle. Well, area equals length times width. So guess what you're doing? You're just multiplying length times width, which is 40, and then you're multiplying that 40 by the 9, which we just did. It's just a different way to visualize it. But either way, our answer is going to be A, 360.